Hi, my name's Inksy, nice to meet you. So this is going to be my very first YouTube video. I'm still learning how to do. I currently have a cold, it's hard for me to breathe, my voice is messed up and all the fun excuses and fun times that are going ahead. But I've decided to make a video right now. My initial intention was about 2 to 3 months from today, so I could learn how to edit videos, normalize sound and all of that, but hey, might as well just start. The main reason I've decided to start doing this is because I'm looking at the current social discussion, social climate, and I'm seeing a concerning pattern. Because I've seen this before, and it was a complete mess. The state we are right now is derivative from what happened before, and it seems that people have forgotten it. I just decided to start making this video. The message is simple. We are going to be taken advantage. This is a false victory. We're celebrating way too early. So as much as anyone else, I'm celebrating the woke is dead, despite the fact that I'm technically the target audience for a lot of what they were doing. Honestly, it's bullshit. Absolutely no one in the target audience gave a shit about their products. They all have the exact same complaints as everyone else. The gays aren't any different in this. They hate mediocrity as much as anyone else does. They hate censorship, they hate controlled behavior and speech. They don't like having to pretend things are one way when they can very clearly see they're the other way. It's just some people took advantage of this. I'm sure all sides are honestly tired of minorities being constantly used as political cudgels, constant tokenization, especially when it's done in the lamest ways possible, by corporations, by politicians, by grifters on YouTube or Twitch or anything. You know who they are. And most importantly, and I think this is what really unifies us all, is that we are tired to have our media, our games completely ruined by obnoxious little shits that make everything a clown show, that make everything like poor Concord. It's just everything is so ugly. Anyone with 2 brain cells, let's be honest, that excludes me, but most people are really tired with, especially where Western games have gone and we have lost faith in them. We start seeing things that should be good as red flags, and we understand that these indicate that the game is likely gonna be crap. I mean, it's going to be made by incompetent developers, and I'm not talking about coders, I'm talking about the entire studio, from the people making the decisions, from the people approving those decisions, from the people implementing those decisions. And it's like a race to the bottom. And why? To appease some mentally ill people on Twitter? It just doesn't make any sense. I think the only person innocent in all of this is the janitor. You know, she's cool, she's just trying to do her job, keep the place clean, but she's clearly in the wrong business. Everyone else is just trying to pack that shit and ship it directly into our brains, then charges $70 to $100 for the privilege. I'm not gonna be talking about any groundbreaking concepts, I mean, everyone knows this. All the games have really bad models, very bad stories. I mean, no one wants to cosplay anything recent because it's ugly, and if we're being very honest, cosplay is the metric of success. It's the metric of good design. If people want to play a character, it's because the character is good. And right now, no one wants to play any of these characters. It's not just the design. They're vapid. They have no personality, they have no development, they have no depth. All they are is just a token. Truthfully, they are an insult to the people they are trying to cater to. That's not how people are in real life. They are nothing alike. Everything is just made so ugly. Let's not talk about the fashion sense. It's horrible. I mean, it would make like a Paris catwalk self-conscious, and whoever made those Jaguar commercials really embarrassed, because even they can't go that low. They still have a vision. It might be a bit weird, but it's still a vision. It still makes sense. What people want is beauty. It's something they can look at and aspire to be. Something that is funny, something that is inspiring. It's something that makes you think, makes you grow, makes you learn something. Maybe just dumb fun, not even that. And this is where one of the saddest parts exists, is that we are blaming something like diversity for the problem, but that's not a problem, it's something that's behind it. For example, diversity can be great if you look at Marvel. X-Men specifically, it's massively diverse. There's very few media that is as diverse as that, and yet everyone loves it. Again, take the X-Men as example. It was made for the outsiders, the others, the misfits. We've all been there. We've all been in a situation where we couldn't really relate to other people around us. And yet, everyone loves these characters. Everyone can identify with an aspect, or 2 or 3 of them. Everyone can see diversity of characters and still pick something that they can appreciate. But look at Marvel Rivals, it's blowing up right now, and if you look at its roster, it's far more diverse than, for example, Overwatch is, or ever was. Yet it was never made to be diverse, it was never intended to be diverse. It just is. Because that's how life is. It reflects real life, not something tokenized. I think that is something that people can detect in authenticity. They can feel it. It's something unconscious and it makes something very unattractive. Overwatch 1 was actually quite interesting, but a lot of the new characters in Overwatch 2, it's like, who cares about this? And the worst part of all is when they try to be so inclusive that they end up excluding a lot of people, right? We all been there. We know how this goes. Most games will have a variety of genders, races, backgrounds, naturally, just because of the story reasons, the setting reasons. There is no need to artificially try to inject things. That will make things feel artificial and lose value. And that's the tragedy, because now instead of having something interesting that could really drive us and inspire us, all we have is some really mindless lecturing, being told what to do, what to think, what to say, and no room for anything else. Think of, for example, Star Trek. It had a lot of world firsts, media firsts, gay kisses, interracial kisses, things like that. It wasn't pushed or shoved into anyone's faces, it was just shown as part of natural life. And yet, it made you think, it made people reconsider their views, create new opinions. It didn't really force anything into you. That's how it should be done. That's how things are done properly. I think we all love character customization. We need to be able to choose different body types, not necessarily for them to identify with us, but simply because it fits our aesthetic preferences. The way the fashion, the clothing, the way the characters behave. If we can add personalities, we can get out of our skin and explore something new. It's awesome. A good game will have a ton of, for example, men's body types. A bear, a really tall guy, a really small guy, a gym bro, some random twinks. And we all love that. Same with women. We like cute, adorable girls, the endearing tomboy that is a bit snarky and annoying in a way, the slightly chubby but most importantly still attractive girl, because being chubby doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're ugly, and yet these games just make ugly ones. Why? Having an armor-clad Amazonian that can crush your skull is awesome. People love these characters, yet they still need to be beautiful. They still need to be inspiring. A lot of it, people will complain that is perhaps a bit thirsty. Sure, but human existence is thirsty. Without these emotions, it just fades away. The equilibrium, there was a sentence there, that without emotions, we're just clocks ticking. So why are we so hellbound in removing something so basic as attraction? It makes absolutely no sense to shame basic impulses like those. They're wonderful. That's what makes life worth living. Take for example the topic of transgender characters. We've had those for decades now, except they were done well, so no one complained about them. Many times you didn't even notice they were transgender until you went through the story and realized, oh, wait. The fact that the character was trans never stopped us from being able to relate to them or understand their background or anything. It was just an aspect of who they were, not the entire thing. That's the difference between a token and a character that is well designed, and it's engaging. Last and not least, the ones that everyone loves, you know, the gender benders, the femboys, the tomboys, characters that everyone loves. No one ever complained about those, as long as they're executed well, and generally they were. Maybe I'm biased here, because I'm a third Polish, maybe it's because I've cosplayed this exact outfit. I just love the character. It's popular for a reason. No one complained about this because they were well done. These are archetypes you can find through all of history for a reason. They have followings, they are beloved, no one hates them. So the problem is not really diversity, it's boring, ugly people making everything boring and ugly. And worst of all, they will criticize you for not liking the trash they made, and this is where it really starts annoying people. We look down too much in life. In our games and media, we want to look up, to escape, to find something new and exciting, instead of a really dated, political charged argument that is just hammered into our heads without any nuance, without any skill. Instead, we just get these self-appointed morality police telling us what to think, what is acceptable, what is not. It's just frustrating. Especially when this comes from people who have failed to be inspiring, have failed to be interesting. It's like they decided mediocre is the norm, everyone should be striving to be mediocre. They want to turn their ceilings into everyone else's. And we can see the difference no better than in Marvel Rivals versus the Marvel whatevers. One inspires you, the other makes you honestly embarrassed, wondering why anyone thought that paragons should be represented like complete losers. The art style is ugly. This is not realism, it's depression. It's giving up on the beauty of life. Is the art styles of Marvel Rivals realistic? Not necessarily. It's exaggerated from reality. But it's not there to be a perfect representation of reality. It's there to give you something to aspire to appreciate. It's beautiful. But you all know this. You are smart. I don't need to be telling what is obvious, but I think that's part of the problem. The obvious has to be repeated constantly nowadays. But here's the kicker, it has always been like this, and this is the point of this entire video. I think that people are celebrating way too early about the death of woke, and they forget that the woke is nothing new. It's just a rebranding of something that has been happening for all as humanity, really. I dislike framing things as left or right, because honestly this is neither an issue of the left or the right. The root cause of all these problems is, I don't know what to call it, a parasite that just masquerades as left right now because the left is more relevant and has been in what, 10, 15 years? So it hides behind it. But it's the same crap that was hiding behind the right before this time period. A good example would be how some evil, predatorial people hide behind, say, LGBT to be shielded from criticism. They just exploit the host and destroy it in the process. I guess depends on whether you're old enough to remember it or if you've paid any attention to older media, but there was a time where censorship was real, way worse than it is right now. You had a code of how many fucks or shits you could say per episode, breasts were constantly covered, skirts needed to be specifically long, men were just seen as disposable cannon fodder that needs to just suck it up, shut up, the only emotion they're allowed to feel is anger. To be fair, that last part hasn't changed yet. And you had entire boards dedicated to censoring movies, especially foreign movies. They would cut pieces out of it, they would change dialogue, they would change the way people are represented, they would add clothing on top of people. Gay people didn't exist. You know, they were just good friends or just someone who is mentally ill. Racism was everywhere and very explicit. These are all issues that really shouldn't be issues. No one should be arguing whether that is a good or a bad thing. It's self-evident. And while we're distracted with this bullshit infighting, someone else is putting their hands inside our pockets and stealing everything we own. Cost of living has never been this high, we still can't afford groceries. Whether you allow gay marriage or not, it's not gonna change that. So what I'm trying to say is that woke is just a tail end of a reaction to a previous reality. It was an overcorrection, but it's the exact same thing. It's just a different side of the spectrum. The difference is, before it wasn't as obvious because it wasn't cloaked in a bright rainbow flag, social media didn't really exist, and legacy media still had a strong hold over culture. The internet changed everything. That's why we had an amazing period of about 10 years where free speech actually existed. And it slowly faded away. Not long ago, there was active censorship of, say, music. You couldn't have profanity in songs. If you think of Green Day, they had to release several albums. One was explicit, the other was a normal one, where words like shit or fuck were bleeped out. There was moral outrage of anything like that. For the fellow millennials, do you remember when that Benny Benassi Satisfaction song came out? It dared to have scantily dressed girls outside. There was outrage. It made the news. It was a scandal. It hasn't been that long either that blasphemy laws have been removed. There was a time when you could not criticize a religion. You would go to jail for it. Sex and sexuality were complete taboos and hidden. Brown characters had very specific roles they could play. Nothing else. Foreign media had characters changed. Anime is an example. We nowadays laugh at China and Saudi Arabia, etc. for censoring anime. We were doing the exact same thing, putting clothes on those titties. All of this to illustrate that this isn't a left or a right problem. It's not woke. The problem is a kind of people, a very specific type of people. So, what are they? Well, fucking losers. Okay, let's be a bit more specific. They are crusaders without a crusade, people who need a cause, a fight. If there isn't a reason to fight, they will cause one. They will make a problem so they can have their crusade or whatever the hell they want. A lot of these people, honestly, are deeply self-hating. They're mentally ill. They need help, but they don't get it. So instead, they just go to social media and try to control everyone else's behavior. because they're so afraid of everything. Essentially, they are people with extremely high morality and desire to impose it on everyone else. I'm not sure what to call them. Moral Nancies? Yeah, let's go with moral Nancies. It doesn't matter. Nowadays, their battle cry is to make things inclusive, to make things safe. In the past, it was think of the children, make things safe. It's all the same shit. You know, the infamous horseshoe theory? I think it's very real. The difference is that I don't think that people become similar the more extreme they become, the more radicalized they become. I think they start there. It's the very same kind of people on both sides. The difference is whatever ideology they were exposed to first. Did they click 4chan instead of Tumblr? Did they click Twitch instead of Reddit? Well, that will decide which side they are on. So to them, the moral framework that they have adopted is what matters. It doesn't really matter anything else except imposing it on others. They are locked in confirmation bias. Whatever happened first, that's what they go with. In a way, it's tragic, but kind of funny at the same time, that the only difference between people waving failed ideology flags around and the colors that they have is simply which media they were exposed to first. They are hypersensitive and looking for a fight. Their feelings will get hurt by absolutely everything. They're hypocritical to the extreme. They don't give a shit about anyone or anyone else. They think of themselves, their morality, and getting outraged. And then farming that outrage. It makes them feel alive, I suppose. Do you guys remember when World of Warcraft introduced Blood Elves and the female Blood Elf made a joke about only riding epic mounts? Oh shit.
Normally I only ride on epic mounts, but let's talk.
There was outrage about that. Calls to ban, censorship, boycotts. It was pathetic. Luckily no one gave a shit. This sound familiar? I think the only difference nowadays is that they want the characters to be ugly and fat on top of it. So this is basically a mental disease. It's a type of person. In the past it used to be conservatives as the host. Then it switched to liberals. The parasite jumped ships, but it's the same parasite. I think it was around Gamergate? No, if we're honest, I think it was around Occupy Wall Street. That was the start of the new wave of division, social agitation, racial animosity, and class struggle, creating problems just so they could sell the cures, I guess. Instead, now they were just hiding behind sexual and racial minorities. They're easy to manipulate. They are generally very vulnerable. They were generally disadvantaged, so it was very easy thing to hide behind and cry and be outraged about. Use them as a meat shield. I think Gamergate was just the event that precipitated the new wave of moral Nancy's crusade and outrage. They just had a different banner. Now it was a rainbow. So now that arc finally comes to an end, the world watches with relief as the United States bans necromancy. It finally allows the dead to stop voting, and maybe it allows the dead to stop holding office. And, well, this signals a new era. The old demented corpse is taken off the chair, and now with the election of Vice President Trump, with the President-not-elect Musk to office, victory is guaranteed, right? Wait, was there a guy called Vance? I hear he likes eyeliner. By the way, eyeliner is great, you should stop being afraid of it. I wear it every day. It makes your eyes look good. If you enjoy it, go for it. If you don't, don't. Just stop criticizing people who like it. Either way, jokes aside, the message is clear. The beacons are lit. Gondor comes for help. Woke is stale, to be dumped off like a used rag. No one cares about it anymore. Everyone is now fleeing ship and pretending that they were always on the other side. Oh yeah, they were just pretending, bro. Trust me. You see CEOs and legacy media kowtowing to the new emperor and try to wash their hands of, what, 6-8 years of active censorship? Of mass hysteria about Trump derangement syndrome. Entire campaigns of silence that they were complicit in, that destroyed people's jobs, that destroyed society. These people want power, it's very clear. They don't care about you. They never did, they never will. They're just switching the code right now. And while they're doing that, there's gonna be a lot of people trying to take advantage of this. Wherever the wind blows, they will try to capitalize. To be the ones now dictating morality, to be the ones now telling you what you can say, what you cannot say, what you can do, what you cannot do. It's all the same shit. They are all just very busy telling you, look, the salad dressing has changed, while they're trying to hide the fact that the salad is all rotting. They will do whatever they have to do to keep us divided, to keep you fighting for completely meaningless things. We are more alike than we are different. But they will keep playing us against each other. Look at those gay people, how horrible that is, right? Meanwhile, you can't afford groceries. We're even seeing the lizard man avoiding an apology while pretending that they're doing the right thing now, right? He started blaming all the tools he created, by the way, so it's his fault. But no, 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 it totally wasn't his intention. He was pressured to do this. Guys, have pity of him. So now the TOS changes. You're still allowed to criticize people. It's just now the beating bag and the people you're allowed to mock is no longer white man. Now it's back to the minorities. Let's call them mentally ill. But notice, you still cannot talk about a lot of things. There's still people you cannot criticize. There's groups you cannot talk about. Don't you just enjoy that freedom? Yeah, you can feel it, can't you? So, what I'm trying to say is, this is a hydra with many heads. Cut one head, the other just changes the colors of its scales. It will abandon the rainbow flag right now, but it will go back to whatever it was before, or something new. But it's still the same hydra. And it will lean harder and harder into censorship. As tools get better and better, AI will start getting leveraged. It will reach a point where you don't even notice you're being censored. This is pretty much just a pressure plate escape valve. They're letting you get revenge on the other side. It's all controlled opposition. It's all controlled behavior. So my message is simple. Let's focus on what matters. What matters is freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of action, beauty, having inspiring media, movies, thing that we can talk about, something that makes us grow, something that makes us want to be. Or sometimes we just want to have fun, mindless, stupid fun. We don't even have that anymore. So let's get that again. The woke is dead, long live the new woke. May it reign 1,000 years. Well, if you made it all the way through, I want to thank you for your patience. Regardless if you agree or not, I respect anyone who listens to the end before forming an opinion. Let us fight for our freedoms, let us fight for our rights. I think that's the goal for everyone. Let us live how we see fit. As I said, this is my very first video. The editing will be choppy, the audio will be terrible. I'm still ill and recovering, so I'll probably be extremely monotone. I'll try to improve that with time. So for next steps, I was planning to build a channel around gaming, culture, movie content, random chats, basically doing something that is entertainment. The intention was probably to use a VTuber avatar as well, because I want people to focus on what the content is and not the person. I just don't care. Besides, I want to spare your second monitor. Trust me, my ugly mug would break it. No one wants that. This is really not what I thought I would be making, but I decided might as well go into it. There is a lot of discussion right now, and I think the time is critical before people start taking advantage and controlling the narrative, and we'll just have censorship again. I've seen the winds change before. Maybe I have some perspective that you might find interesting. Maybe this is something I already know. Maybe you think I'm wrong, but I think the message needs to be sent across and let people discuss. That's what the market of ideas is. As for future content, I'll try to make a video a week, maybe every other week. There's a lot of topics I might discuss. It might be interesting for you, I don't know. Let me know how you feel about it. But for example, how morality is both the builder and destroyer of civilizations, how expectations shape our lives and emotions, maybe even leverage the gaming industry experience that I have and explore DEI and its impact, how it actually could be beneficial, but it mostly is just use an excuse to hire untalented, cheap people, and that the majority of issues caused by it is mostly to do with talent, experience, competence, not necessarily diversity. In fact, diversity can be highly beneficial. It's just done wrong. If those interest you, well, keep up with what's coming in the next few months. Then, at some point, I will go to do what I intended to do once I learn to edit, once I get my footing. Just be a dumbass fanboy VTuber channel, playing stupid games, chatting away with all of you. Just being the parasocial relation that you crave. You know, while you're playing 500 hours of a game you kinda hate, but you just can't stop playing. I belong in the second monitor, and I know that. It's fine, I'm happy to do that. My only worry is that after this video I've just alienated half of my potential audience. Then again, I never claimed to be smart, just very honest. I'll haunt you on the next one. Bye bye!